Uncle Buddy was someone that cared about everybody. He was a friend to everybody. He was a mentor to everybody. That's why I started calling him Uncle Buddy. He was looking after my best interests. And it was easy to love somebody that you know that loves you.
I mean, he had the nickname Buddy for a reason. He was everybody's friend.
He was so interested in everybody and everything. He would talk to any worker at Cone and was genuinely interested in what they were doing, their role, and he made them feel so valued.
He didn't dabble. He was all in. Whatever he did, he was full bore. And I don't know that that wasn't obvious, but that was the thing I appreciated the most about Buddy is anything he did to the nth degree.
He was a Boy Scout. He was trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, and reverent. He grew up in Greensboro, and he was committed to Greensboro.
Buddy was so humble. He really didn't want his name. He didn't want to have any big honors or any accolades. He just didn't want that kind of recognition. He just wanted to get the job done.
Buddy cleaned his own gutters until he was in his 80s. And if you go around to the back of that house, that's a 2-story house plus an attic, a full attic plus a basement. So from the back, that's a 4-story structure. And he had an extension ladder that he extended with a rope 4 stories high, and in his 80s, he was climbing up that ladder and cleaning his own gutters. And that's the way he was. I mean, he was all in. He never let up. He just did everything to the nines, and that's what I loved about him.
The one thing about Buddy Weill that a lot of people did not see is how many people he helped behind the scenes. I would go to his office very often just to glean some information from him to be a better business person, to be a better individual. But sometimes people would leave, and I would ask Buddy, they would be leaving as I was coming in. I said, Buddy, I didn't recognize that individual. Were they here for business? And he said, no, I was just helping them out. They needed some money, and I helped them out. And that was one thing that I don't think a lot of people knew about Buddy, and that he was very philanthropic in non-public ways.
He went to Chapel Hill, and then he enlisted in World War II, and he was in the Tank Corps. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge. He won the Purple Heart. And then he came back to Chapel Hill and finished his degree in business. And according to Maxine, and I never knew this, he got accepted to law school. And the one thing he wanted to do more than anything else, according to Maxine, was to become a lawyer. And right after he had applied and become accepted, his dad fell into ill health. And so his dad said, Buddy, you need to come back to Greensboro and learn this business. It was Robbins and Weill, insurance and real estate. So Buddy's, I say his education got short. His undergraduate education didn't get short, but he never got to go to law school.
Well, I only had one job offer, and that was my father who put me to work as part of the company he had created and formed a year before.
And what did he have you doing?
Selling real estate.
So did you enjoy that?
Yes.
We started talking about how are we going to celebrate our 100th anniversary as a club, which would have been in 2017. And Bobby Bain made the point that let's make the next big thing a really big thing. And that resonated with me, and Uncle Buddy wasn't at Rotary that day, so I called him afterwards, and I went over what the board was discussing about the 100th anniversary, and that Bobby Bain said, let's make the next big thing a really big thing. He said, John, the Rotary Club of Greensboro needs to honor the commitments that it has already made. I knew what Buddy meant, that we had to honor our commitments. And so in 2015, the team, Bernie Mann and Ray Covington and the team, started meeting every Monday at 5 o'clock to build the Rotary Carousel. It was May of 2017, and it was time for all of our donors to be picking their animals. And there was one called the military horse. It was white, kind of an off-white, had a flag on it, U.S. flag on it. And Buddy said, "Maxine, does that look okay to you?" And she says, "I like the fact that it's a light color." He says, "Okay, I want that horse."
I can't think of Buddy without thinking of Maxine. And Maxine Fisher was Buddy's assistant for 40 years. And if you got Buddy, you always got Maxine. And that was one of the best things about working with Buddy, was the combo platter. You got Buddy, you got Maxine. And I'm sure the other guys would agree with that. I mean, she was and is fabulous. And Buddy's life would not have been the same without her. Just would not. So when I remember him, I remember her. They were a team. I never could quite figure out what to describe Maxine's job as. Somehow, executive assistant or whatever you came up with didn't quite do her justice. I mean, she was kind of like a silent partner. Just to tell you what Investors of Greensboro is, it is a stock investment club. And it was 25 guys who I think knew each other business-wise, who said, let's find a way to get together socially. So they started this club, and it still exists, and it still meets the second Thursday of every month. And you put in a little money a month, and you create a pot, and you get together, and you pick stocks. I think it was a great way for Buddy to socialize and meet people. And I think one of the joys that Buddy had with investors was that he was in it so long, he got to meet a lot of young people. It was a way for him to stay young. Buddy was the treasurer of investors for, I think, 29 years. And of course, if you knew Buddy, he was the perfect treasurer. And if you knew Buddy, he was perfect because you also got Maxine. But they together, he in particular, did a great job. And, you know, Buddy was such a precise person. I mean, we have a capital budget for the money that you put in the stock market. You have the R&D budget, which was our joking term for the drinks and the dinner, which we call research and development, which was the R&D budget. So Buddy kept the capital budget and the R&D budget. He would come in with reports every month, and it was to the T. He could tell you how much we spent each year for dinner. He could tell me how much a drink cost. I mean, he was the ideal treasurer.
Buddy knew that ageism exists in this country. And he saw there was not a lot of funding, especially locally, for aging services. And I think he wanted to be part of the solution.
He had the same friends that he watched get old. I mean, you know what I mean? He was a community guy, and he had a kind of a circle of friends that he saw age, and I think he sort of was involved in their journey. So I mean, I think it's very appropriate that he chose the elderly and the aging. I almost would have predicted that.
Buddy was a big believer in the Community Foundation's mission. He believed it was the best resource to distribute his funds.
He loved the Community Foundation. We had a lot of conversations about it. He thought it was a great organization. I think he loved the flexibility of it. I think he loved the ability of it to have someone follow your wishes.
He was proud of what he had founded at Wellspring. He was proud of this continuing care retirement community and what it had become and what it meant to so many people in their later years. And he was proud for what he did for this organization in terms of so many negotiations with the state, negotiations with the county at the time, and then ultimately negotiations with the city to make things happen here on this campus.
I'm not the only one in the community that really misses that man, and I'll continue to miss him, and I just want to hopefully honor his legacy as the years go by.
Buddy will be remembered not by just what he did as a business person in this town, but what he did as a volunteer. And if we could all learn from that, if we could all take from that our personal involvement, whether it be in city, county government, or civic organizations, or religious organizations, or any organization devoted to the common good, if we could take that away from Buddy's legacy, we would be a better community.